Hello, everybody, and welcome back to For the Culture with Zach and Zack.
Hello.
Zach, are you Okay, there you go. I thought you may have been frozen for like a minute. How are you?
I'm good. I'm recovering from a great weekend and vacation. Me and my partner went to Portugal for the weekend. Of course, it was Pride there, and so we got our life.
That's great to hear. I'm glad that the vacation was good, and that you were able to hopefully rejuvenate, restore, and kind of get back to the business. Because for you in the space of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and for our guest, Zach is a national DEI expert. I would assume this month is very busy.
Yes, it is. Um, can you all hear me? My internet is going in and out. Is it good?
Yeah, we can tell. We surely can tell that's happening. But I mean,
Well, now you want to start? We got guests.
I'm
Stop.
trying to make it work. I'm trying to make it work. And while Zach gets his internet together, while speaking of guests, we are joined tonight by like an all-star panel of influencers who I have found on the almighty Clock app, but not too almighty because they suppress our content. Ain't like none of us are getting the views we should be getting. But we are really going to have what I think will be a really good conversation, all about what we can do in the how do we even have pride in 2022 with so much happening in our communities. And I'm joined by Ariella, and please correct me if I'm saying your names wrong. Ryan Bunker and
Ariella.
Aria, how do I say it?
Ariella.
Ariella. Well, you know what, Ariella, my love, tell us who you are, where you are, and the focus of your social media influence work.
Yeah, so my name is Ariella. I'm an influencer. I focus on queer content. When I started on TikTok, I had a series called How to Add Queer Rep to Kids Shows. And I was basically showing both in past and in current how important it is to have queer rep for children. So I did a series on Magic School Bus, which had none but did. And I got a lot of love for that. And so I did that for a really long time. And then the world started going to shit. Am I allowed to swear?
The world started going to shit. Because I literally was going to say, I've actually never seen an episode of the Magic School Bus because, I'm a little bit older than you. Not much, just a little bit. But all I know is like the image of them on the school bus being superimposed by the sound of Tiffany Haddish saying, "But it's a booty hole." You may continue.
Magic School Bus was extremely inclusive, and they never had an outright queer character, but they had a lot of, I wouldn't call it queer baiting because that wasn't a thing at the time, but it was definitely I found a lot of representation in it, and especially representation that could have happened. So a lot of the posts I was making was, hey, if they had just added a blush here, if they had just added holding hands here, if this had happened, then it would have been queer rep. And especially because Lily Tomlin, who is lesbian herself, played Miss Frizzle, that was another thing. And so I did that, and then the world went to shit. And then I started doing a series called Queer News Around the World, because I was seeing a very successful cis gay white man who decided that every piece of gay news deserved to be called gay news. And that included things like, hey, guess what? Anne Frank was bisexual. And as a Jew, that angered me to all amounts of the world. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do a series counteracting what you're doing, because what you're doing is harmful. And I like the idea, but you're not doing it right. So I decided to start my Queer News Around the World series, and it hasn't really gone anywhere. It still hasn't gone anywhere. I still do it because it's really important. And then I just started posting a bunch of queer news. And so I started posting when things go wrong, when things are happening, and people like Equality Florida have gotten in touch with me, and I started working with Lambda Legal. And so there's been a lot of a lot of things like that has inspired me, and I'm trying to at this point, I'm just trying to get people to see what's going on and not feel as scared to kind of know what's going on in the world, because we have to talk about it even if it freaks us out, and that we have to vote, that voting is the most important thing we can do, and that if we don't vote, and if we don't vote blue, as much as blue sucks right now, but if we don't vote blue, we get red. And so I'm trying to that's kind of what I try to do, is try to show, hey, this is what's happening in the world. This is why it's so important to be aware and alive and alert and care.
And it's Ariella, right? Ariella?
Yes.
Ariella, I love it. So I'm gonna say this. So I'm committed. I don't know about DJ Ryan. I know Zach ain't committed because he didn't even got no TikTok. But I am committed to sharing your content, liking your content, commenting on your content, because it should be, it should get out there. And I am not going to lie and say that some of the gay news, like he pissed me. I blocked him a long time ago.
You know what I'm talking about.
What he said or what he did that triggered me. But I'm easily triggered. So he's not
easily quick to cancel somebody. So be on.
Well, yeah, I'm not quick. I can't lie. It's a Scorpio in me. And speaking of the Scorpio in me, let's go to the Gemini on the line. Ryan, how are you, my friend? And tell us who you are and about your work on TikTok.
Sure. Ryan Bunker. I'm from sunny tropical Cleveland, Ohio. Definitely not usually sunny or tropical. I, by day, am in supply chains. I'm in supply chain and procurement realm. Can you see me still? There we go.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And regarding like TikTok, I've just sort of started dabbling with it, and I'm like getting over the letting people into your like personal life sort of space. So in terms of what I want my content to be focused on, I'm not really certain yet. I know I've got a lot to say and I want a platform to be able to say it. And I think it'll be a little bit of random chaos.
Random chaos is good and we need it. And I definitely will say that if you follow Ariella, did I say it right that time too? Oh, good. If you follow Ariella and DJ Rock, you are going to see some examples of how you can create meaningful content that will stand the test of time. It doesn't matter what you choose to make your niche, if you even choose to have a niche. All that matters is that you create content that you believe in and that matters to you. I think that that's really important. I think it's a major pitfall of so many people on TikTok to get caught up in the views and the likes, because that is an artificial sense of the value of your work. The value of your work can only come from the good you feel from doing that. And someone who I've seen do a lot of good on TikTok already and really give voice to the issues of the community that she's a member of is DJ Rock. DJ, thank you. Tell us who you are and the focus of your advocacy.
Hi, everyone. I'm DJ. I'm in Brooklyn. I laugh because I feel like my TikTok is, first of all, I feel flattered to be considered an influencer in this group. But also, half the time I'm just making jokes about my genitals. But that's what I love about TikTok, is I think that that's radical. I believe in posting a lot about like radical sex positivity. I think TikTok really helped me as a trans woman navigate my identity and realize that I think so many of the mainstream narratives of trans women follow this singular story, right? Where you'll fall in love with a cis het man and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like super queer. I love all kinds of people. Like there's no like representation of those chaotic trans women who aren't perfect and always hyper femme. And so, and that's kind of why I make my joke posts and think that they're still radical. But I often get into fights with the white LGBTQ+ community on TikTok. That's probably where I get a lot of my most in-depth content. But yeah, I really believe in centering the voices of Black trans women in our movement. I think we are the people who started this movement, and we're often the ones forgotten in every single conversation and piece of advocacy. So I try to call people out on that, and a lot of white queer people don't like me because of that. So I've dubbed myself the Azealia Banks of white queer TikTok, because they think I'm a horrible, chaotic, evil monster. And that's how I feel like I'm viewed sometimes. But it's because I call them out on their bullcrap, and I just don't like acknowledge that like you can have one oppressed identity and not still, oppress others. So
I've loved your journey. I've loved learning about all three of you, and I'm really excited to just delve, right? So, for those of you who are watching along with us live, please ask questions in the chat. We have a lot to talk about, and we want to also, though, make sure that you are a part of the conversation. And being a part of the conversation, I know Zach has a lot. I saw you over there, clapping and snapping and just doing what you do. Any thoughts or comments to share?
No, thank you all again for being here, and I look forward to diving into this conversation for the culture.
And Zach,
This
as
is
you
what we're
can
about.
see, when you get ready to bring in speakers who can help center voices and amplify voices, you have three options right here on this panel to pick from. So again, I know I'll be seeing you because, people contact this man all the time about speaking engagements and, spread the wealth, Zach. People, don't center yourself all the time.
Oh my God.
The title of like today's show is "No More I Love Yous: The Future of Pride in the Face of Political Assault." And literally, I started doing some research, and I realized, and I came up with the statistic that there are over 300 anti-LGBTQIA plus laws written in 2022 that made it to state legislatures to pass. And unfortunately, tragically, the bulk of those laws right now are aimed against men and women who happen to be trans and children who are identifying and realizing that they are boys and girls who happen to be trans. With all of this push and this huge amount of anti-LGBTQIA plus legislation, is this a moment that we are missing as an entire community to really maybe pause the pride or pause the party, pause promotion, and focus on the issues that are like threatening our existence in this society? And this is an open question for anybody out there who wants to take it.
I think it's a good question to start off with, Zach, because I've been seeing a lot of quotes this year to kick off Pride Month and saying that Pride started with a riot. And so I think maybe that's what we need to get back to. But I would love to hear what the other panelists think.
I think in 2022, where we're at today, a lot more of just the celebration, just that we exist. It's great and fine and dandy, but at the same time, you can't go waving the flag in the streets and celebrating your party without understanding that the rights and freedoms that have been won on the backs of trans women of color are very much so being threatened and continue to be threatened daily.
I think there are also a lot of different ways to fight that isn't necessarily the opposite of a celebration. Like, I think that, at least for me, I'm really big into media, and the idea of praising when it's done right and calling out when it's done wrong isn't necessarily what people think of as a fight, but I think it's equally as important, especially when it comes to kids media, because that's where it starts. That if you can teach a kid that it's okay to be whoever they want, or okay for someone else to be whoever they want, well, then we're done with that generation. Then that generation's going to be okay. And so I think that that's kind of where I take the fight, and where I think the fight is the most important is with the younger generation and with teaching them that it's okay to be themselves. And every time that they're told it's not, reminding them again and again and again, because it's not just about fighting for it. It's about showing them here it is. And when their yearbooks are taken, not having a queer page allowed for the Don't Say Gay bill, reminding them that it's okay, and showing them situations where it's okay, and showing them teachers who are supporting them, and showing them like that maybe where you are right now in the location you're in, it's not, but there are places, so many places around the world that it is. And I feel like that's a fight in and of itself, even though it's a more positive spin on the fight.
I agree. I think it's a great spin on the fight. And, are you the reason why we have all of the anti-bills about blocking, even saying, like, are you the reason we have Don't Say Gay in, like, schools? Like, did you do this with your TikTok and we just don't know about it?
I mean, I'm the reason that Blue's Clues talked about queerness. I'm not even joking. I made a post in February of 2021. They had done an alphabet song that had P is for pride and all the pride flags around it. And I made a post, and the post went to 2 million. And all of the writers then went to the heads and was like, hey, this is doing well. Can we do more queer content? And that's how we got the Pride March families thing that Nina West did in June of last year. And I got a message from all of the writers of Blue's Clues telling me, like, this is because of you. And so there's real power in just speaking and in just saying something and in just showing what is good and what's done well and praising the things that are done well, because it doesn't just work when you call out the things that are done wrong. You have to also praise the things that are done well. The way my mom has taught me is, like, when you're on the phone with a customer service agent and they're really good, you also have to talk to the supervisor. You don't just talk to the supervisor when you're yelling at someone. You talk to them when you're congratulating them and thanking them for doing well, because people don't know when they're doing something right. We know when it's right for us, but we don't know when it's right for other people. And so I think that that's something that's really important. And that's kind of why I try and post positive things as well as negative, though right now it's been really hard. But that's I think the most important thing we can do is just keep talking and keep yelling and keep making noise.
One thing that came out and you guys anyone watching, it was on today's NPR, and it was on the show 1A. And 1A did a deep dive into why is it that the Republican Party has chosen to double down on attacking trans rights in America. That was the focus of the episode, and I thought it was extremely enlightening. 80% of Americans are in absolute favor of ensuring that members of the LGBTQIA plus community, including men and women who happen to be trans, have their rights that are guaranteed to them by law protected. Yet, although 80% of Americans support this, Republicans are continuously writing these bills. And the episode explored why that is. And it talks about this actually isn't the first time they've done this. This has been an ongoing, continuous assault on the rights of the LGBTQI plus people. Going back, they talked about the bathroom bills and all of that drama to now go into not allowed to making sports the central issue. And so, and all of it being used to ultimately one day get to the big win where they're slowly headed. And personally, I think that the rights of every single person in America is under assault, whether they realize it or not. I think that we're actually on right at a corner of possibly losing a lot of rights and even having your gender expression or your sexual identity being criminalized based upon what types of laws are being written, the language that they're using, and what they're pushing on the Supreme Court. And speaking of the Supreme Court, possibly as early as next week, the case against or saying that businesses can refuse service to members of the LGBTQI plus community on the basis of religion should make it to the court. This is actually I'm watching it very closely. Do you think that it is a possibility that we're going to see the rights of LGBTQI plus A people be lost that the Supreme Court's going to strike down previous rulings?
And is that creative, or which case is that? Because there's the 303 creative in Colorado as well.
I'm not sure which one. I'm not sure. I don't know, but this is the one that's made it through, and it's going to be the deciding factor. And I personally believe the Supreme Court is going to side with the business and say, yes, you can refuse service on the basis of your religious beliefs. And that opens the door not just for discrimination against members of the LGBTQ plus community. It opens the discrimination against anyone they so desire to discriminate against.
That's just going back to economic terms. There's no such thing as a free lunch. And I think we've for far too long taken for granted the concept of freedom of speech. And inherently, when you have a system where you get one group of people, and I'm going to throw into the mix, it'll probably not go land well, but you've got Christians, for example, that are claiming for religious purposes that all these beliefs and that they can't serve LGBT community members, or that a trans person's right to use the restroom that coincides with their gender identity violates some religious, deeply held beliefs. Well, that's the issue, is that if everything can be protected, nothing is protected. And if your religion, my lifestyle threatens that, then who wins or loses in that situation?
The thing that I find so interesting about religious freedom is that as a Jew, pretty much everything that is against religious freedom is the opposite for Jews. Like with Roe v. Wade, abortion is required required if the mother is in danger, not just if the mother is in physical danger, if the mother is in emotional danger, if the mother can't handle having a child, abortion is required.
Life above all.
And in Judaism, a child exists at first breath, not at heartbeat. So the idea of this religious freedom is taking away the religious freedom from other religions and other cultures. And so it's not religious freedom, it's Christian fascism at this point. And I think that's a better way of thinking of it than
it's been termed Christian fundamentalism. I don't like the term, as a Christian, but I can't deny the fact that's what it is. I would prefer them call it evangelical fundamentalism because in my Black Christian United Methodist Church, these issues aren't there. I go to an affirming and accepting church. My pastor is a heterosexual man, but the word that he gives to us from the Bible is a word of acceptance and affirmation, and that's it. So that's why I would wish they would call it evangelical fundamentalism, but
and it's not all Christians, but that's just typically where you're seeing a lot of the legislative agendas that are being pushed through state legislatures on the grounds of religious beliefs, and it's Christian groups that are pushing it.
And it's also
are they Christian groups or are they something else? See, I argue this is just my unique belief on it, right? Like I firmly believe that it's not Christian group first off, you definitely are not a follower of the teachings of Jesus Christ if you're doing these things. If you are using his teachings to attack and assault people, to demean and dehumanize people, you're not a Christian. You're completely something else. You're using the word and the teachings of Jesus Christ to purport and support your own personal agendas, typically your own political agenda, and you're using it against people to have power and to have power over them. So I would think, or I hold the issue with the people doing that and not with the religion, even though this religion has been used in this way from its beginning and will probably use this way until its end.
I think that also Christianity in general isn't understood well. I had a class in high school that we spent about like 6 weeks talking about Christianity. And I mean, I don't know much because I'm a Jew, but there were a lot of things I was like, oh, there are other parts, there are other things, there are other avenues and it's not all like this one thing. And I think it almost reminds me of like Islamic extremism, the idea that like that's not Islam, that has been treated like Islam so that we can hate on all people.
That's exactly right.
So I think that is that's kind of how it works, is that we want to put people in boxes and put large groups of people in boxes so that there is no way to love, there's no way to support people because you're trained to hate groups of people. And I think there is some of that to Christianity for sure, because we're not trained to learn about actual Christianity. We're trained to learn about Breitbart and the Blaze and all of those Republican ideological pieces of shit.
Well, I think part of it too is I think it's this, like, I mean, as we always talk about intersectionality, right? It's white supremacy, right? And how white supremacy manifests itself in the United States is through violent patriarchy, is through this evangelical practice, right? That harms so many other folks. And I think what all of this does is it protects, right, the nuclear white middle-class American family, right? That's what this is all rooted at. If you look at the bills and where they're being targeted, it's in the South, right? Who is being targeted the most by these bills? It's Black and brown kids in the South, right? Black and brown trans kids are the ones that are not getting access to healthcare. If we look at bathroom bills, right? What was it designed? To make certain trans people the scary boogeyman who we have to criminalize and police, right? It's these same systems, right? It's why the school to prison pipeline affects Black trans kids more than any other group of kids, more than Black cis kids, Black heterosexual kids, right? Like all of these systems are designed in place and they're just kind of manifesting in the ways that they're supposed to, right? And I think it's just really interesting that we talk about what pride is. And I have so many mixed feelings to that earlier question, because part of it is like, I think radical resistance and rest is powerful. And I think during Pride, I like to party with Black trans people. And I think Black trans people taking up space is resistance and powerful in some ways. But I also just think about so much of Pride to me and its discourse has become about visibility, right? It's become, the TikTok song, Be Who You Are, right? Like that's really what it's become. And in so many ways, I feel like, you know, I've seen so many, particularly trans women, talk about the trap of visibility, right? This is arguably the most amount of Black trans women we've ever had on TV, and also the most amount of violence Black trans women have had on record, right? So I really just wonder, what are we doing during Pride that is actually kind of stopping all of these systems from happening all at once? And also, how much of this is our responsibility, right? It feels like we're the only ones looking out for each other, and we have to, but also like, I'm not making laws in Washington. My dad is not, you know, CEO of these things, right? Like how much of that relies on us to not rest and have pride versus, you know, whose responsibility that is, or who will actually have to do it.
And DJ, you bring up a great point. I think for me, a lot of what I've been thinking about is pride inclusive of all. Recently, I know within the past couple of years, of course, we had the rainbow flag, but then they added the colors of brown and black. And so is that truly saying that brown and black people, or brown and black people were not included in the rainbow before? And so is it truly inclusive of all? Even those Black trans individuals? Are we having our allies who identify as those gay white men also being advocates for those Black trans women in the community? And so is Pride truly inclusive of all, or are we still segregated?
No. I would say no, but I'm curious to see what else about this.
No, I'd say no too. And I'd also like to mention that we're talking about Black trans women, but then there's also, we don't talk about intersex, which is part of Pride. We don't talk about non-binary enough. We don't talk about asexuals at all. We don't talk about that spectrum whatsoever. We don't talk about genderqueer and gender fluid and all the different things that work itself into Pride. And I think that is something that I've been thinking about a lot, is like, why was a rainbow flag not enough? Because the whole point of the rainbow flag is it's a rainbow. Every color can be created from the rainbow. So when we have to have these progress flags, and when we have to talk specifically about, hey, here's the trans flag and here's the black and brown stripes, that means we weren't inclusive to begin with, and we don't think we're inclusive. That's literally us saying, hey, we screwed up. We weren't talking about you. Now we're going to talk about you, but we should be talking about you without having to have this idea of like, look here, because we're supposed to be all of, I mean, the identity of queer is that we're different and we're special, and none of that made sense. But a rainbow is supposed to be inclusive, and the fact that it hasn't been tells us that no, there is no inclusion. If there was inclusion, then we wouldn't have felt the need to add that. If that made sense. I don't know if that made sense.
It made a lot of sense.
No, it makes sense. Yes.
I don't think it's been inclusive for a hot minute. I mean, I go and look at Pride's pretty much everywhere. I mean, let's just be honest. It's a place for cis white gay males to go continue their circuit parties throughout the year. I mean, that's what Pride has become. It is not really about inclusion anymore. It's a gay brunch extended in the street.
Well, to bring up LA, I mean, LA Pride is doing, it costs money to go to LA Pride. It doesn't cost money to go to the festival. It costs money to go to anything else besides the festival. And it's become a concert. And I remember a few years ago, there were cis het performers at this concert. And it was literally just a fest. It was like Coachella, except in the middle of LA. And that doesn't work. Like that, we lost the point. If that's what we're doing, we lost it. Like we screwed up somewhere.
The whole country has screwed up somewhere. When Walmart can now make Pride ice cream that's packed with fudge, and it's literally advertised as packed with fudge, there's a problem. This has become a mockery, and we completely lost sight of what the need to have Pride even is in the first place. And again, it's like all about making money from the community and not putting that money in the community. And so that's just, I can't do it. I can't eat that Pride ice cream. I'm not boycotting Walmart yet. Zach.
Oh, but did you see the Juneteenth ice cream?
Exactly.
We talked about
We talked right. I mean, I'm this close, but I'm holding. I'm holding out.
Like, of all the things you could do, you steal a black company's ice cream, and then you don't give credit, and then you put this little blurb on it, and then you have it the colors of Africa. Did you put any thought into this?
No, someone said it was a good idea and they would make a lot of money. That they would make a lot of money.
You know what would have also made them a lot of money? If they had a corner for black-owned companies, and then given the money to those companies and given it some of it to themselves, they would have made so much more money instead of people not wanting to buy it because it's disgusting.
And to that question about is Pride inclusive, I mean, I actually was scrolling through TikTok and I saw Sylvia Rivera, right? One of the pioneers of Pride. Before she passed in 2002, she had an interview in 2001 where she said no. She said, I hate what Pride has become. She said, I hate that all we do is spend money to straight people when we don't owe them a damn thing. Like literally that's what the originator of Pride has said. So Pride is no, it's not inclusive. She was kicked out. I mean, trans women have been kicked out of Pride from since when they were still alive, even after starting the movement. But yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's the same system. It's the same capitalist, white supremacist. Like it all just goes into one place that centers certain folks who keep benefiting from it. And
I also want to say that there's this lovely new thing where Republicans are trying to say that it's all new. Like the trans people didn't exist before this year, that queer people didn't exist unless they identified as gay or lesbian, like that this is a new thing, that we've never had this before. More people are identifying because they feel like they're not going to be murdered for identifying as that. That's why they're doing it. It's not like it's new. It's because they feel like they have a chance now. And I think that narrative is also really like helping with the exclusivity, because a lot of people are hearing this and deciding that these Republicans might have a point. And that's one of the really scary things, especially with like, there was this whole thing that I fell for 5 minutes, that the shooter at Uvalde was trans because it came the way that it was packaged and it went to reputable sources and it was packaged that way. And a bunch of conservatives just decided we're going to make this be the meaning of what happened and be and if you can trick someone like me, you're doing something right for your side. Like you're not doing something right, but you succeeded in some way.
Yeah, the Republican Party has doubled down and mastered the art of the lie. They have mastered the art of media manipulation, and they're very skilled at it. And they have the Marjorie Taylor Greens who come out first and say the most abhorrible, ridiculous things to test it out, and then let people like Louis Goldmer or whatever and other people take it and then go with it. Because I heard an interview on 1A with this Oklahoma lawmaker who was saying, I grew up in the 50s and there was no trans. You went to the bathroom, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, this isn't what this man didn't think of that. This man didn't come up with that in his own little bitty brain, because his brain is minuscule. This came from the well-orchestrated talking points of the Republican Party. And that's what Democrats are failing to do, is organize and strategize and message appropriately to combat these things in our defense.
But do you think also, to that point, there are people in the community who are also damaging, i.e. Caitlyn Jenner, who recently came out saying trans has become a fad. And so this is someone who identifies as a member of the community, saying this on national TV. Of course, Zach, I know what you think. I'm just going to...
Well, it definitely proves that it's not a choice, because I don't think she'd have ever chosen to be part of the queer community if it was in any way her choice. Every time she opens her mouth, like when with all the Leah Thomas stuff, which I've been trying to be really forward on and showing what's happening, because at first it was only coming from conservatives. I wasn't seeing anything from anyone else, even from queer groups, saying anything positive about her. And so I just started posting about it, because I'm like, what the hell? Why are we only letting this come from Breitbart? But Caitlyn was like talking about how it was like, that's awful. I'm just like, care about anyone but yourself in any way, shape, or I don't. Yeah,
She's a real Republican. Caitlyn Jenner is a real Republican. When you say, does she care about anybody but herself?
no.
She's a real Republican.
And then people try and say, oh, like, well, the Kardashians are super progressive or whatever. And then Kim goes and supports Rick Caruso. And I just.
So, yeah. So, one thing that we do is that we always, every single episode, we do segments. And so this segment was our culture conversation, where we engage and we talk about the issues and we really get to like the point, of what we're here for. And then after we do our culture conversations, we go keep it up with Caitlyn. She ran for office and she got obliterated. Okay, she got obliterated.
We still have Newsom.
I was waiting on you. I was going to blame you for that. You were going to get the full blame of Caitlyn, complete blame. But luckily, you don't have to get the blame because she didn't make it out. But after our culture conversation, we always play a game. And the game always varies every week. So, Zach, I need you to get some paper because you're going to be the scorekeeper. You got some paper over there? I can't do it all. I can't ask the questions and keep the score. You got it?
I'm good.
Okay, and so this, because you might know some of the answers. So we're going to have, it was called like LGBTQIA plus Jeopardy, but that was like too hard trying to put it in like the little things. So it's just like trivia. We are going to play LGBTQIA Pride Month trivia. And so what we will do is I'm going to ask the question, and then you will give, the first person who knows the answer will give the answer. Let's see if you know your stuff. And it is divided up into categories. And so category number 1 is LGBTQIA plus history. That is category number 1. And those of you out there who are watching, you don't put the answers in, but can you guys see the chat?
Yes.
Right, yeah. Don't put the answers in because let's just see. And if you know, don't lie and be like, oh, I knew that. But if you really didn't know it, just let us know you know it. These are all things that I knew. And let's see if you know. Number 1. This is the first question, and it's actually any part of the question that you answer can count. Several things can count, and you get the credit. Where and when did the first organized Pride event occur? And who organized it is the question. Where and when did the first organized Pride event occur? And who organized it? Who wants it first?
Not all at once.
We will take an educated guess. Jeez.
I'll take a guess.
Okay, wait. DJ Rock is going to take a guess.
Oh no, this is like.
Yeah, we're gonna put you up on the screen.
It had to be New York City, right? I'm gonna go with New York.
Yeah, it was in New York. Do you know the year? Anyone know the year? So we have the answer. And I did say any part of the question can be given credit. We are going to give DJ Rock, Zach, let's give her 1. She got 1. 0, 0. Okay, you guys now, right? 0, 0 for you two. 0, 0. So it was New York. Do you know the year? Anyone can add to this now. We know Stonewall happened in 1969. Easy to remember.
So it would have to be 1970?
Absolutely right. It was the very following year. It was organized by Craig Rodwell and his partner, Fred Sargent, and Ellen Brody, as well as Linda Rose, who was a bisexual woman. So we had 2 gay men, another gay man, a lesbian, and a bisexual woman, all coming together to make what was called the Christopher Street Liberation March happen. And that was the very first organized Pride event ever. So, okay. And I think I even put them in the.
And this is why we need queer history in school.
We ain't gonna get it, okay?
I know.
They can't say gay. They can't even say black. We ain't getting that. But,
have you seen Louisiana's version? Because it's a hell of a lot worse than Florida's. Oof.
Wait, whose?
I believe it was Louisiana's version of
I saw Louisiana. Did you see Idaho?
I have not looked into that one yet.
Oh,
It
okay.
is bad
That's
too.
a good one too.
Georgia doesn't have a great one either. So, and again, but hopefully Stacey Abrams will become governor and do, and then we know that law won't get signed into action. But she is in a big deficit right now. So we'll see if it happens. Here's our next question. Okay, are you ready? This one I think it's easier, right? This one is easier. Who was the first openly gay person elected to the United States Senate? Openly gay, the very first person to serve as a United States senator, and was elected as openly gay.
Not Franken, is it?
It wasn't Barney Frank. Now we know it wasn't Barney, but he was gay, and he was gay before this person. I'm sure that he was gay way before this person. But Barney Frank was not, openly gay until the very end. And I don't even know if it was during a time when he had to actually win a re-election.
Milk had nothing to do with federal politics, did he?
No, he didn't make it there. But I believe that he would have.
Probably.
I believe that he would have. Any other final guesses? If not, we will give up.
Is it really recent, like embarrassingly recent?
Unfortunately, I think it is embarrassingly recent, and that is Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, who was elected in 2012. That is how recent it is to actually have an openly gay person or member of the LGBTQIA plus community who's open about it being elected and serving in Congress. So when we see these laws and we see what's happening, we see what's on the books, it's a clear lack of representation in so many areas. But there is hope. There is hope in the next question. So can anyone tell me on this one? You must know. I know you'll know this one. Who was the first openly gay Black person to serve in the United States Congress? And they specifically serve right now in the United States House of Representatives. We got 1-0-0, people. We got 1-0-0 on the board.
Hey, I said the right year for the first Pride event.
You did. So it's like 1-0, then 0.008. I'm happy to score just accordingly. Now, this man, come on now. He is like...
I'm going to feel really silly when you say that.
He's all that in a bag of chips in every sense of the word.
It's not Cory Booker.
And it's not Julian Castro because he is not gay.
Who?
It is Richie. Oops, wrong person. It's Richie Torres from New York, DJ Rock. From New York. This man was elected in 2020 and has done an amazing job. Just is up for re-election. And it's most certainly not. Reverend Warnock is... as they come.
I don't know if I'd be supporting Sean Penn in considering what he said about men who wear skirts.
Poor Sean Penn. Poor Sean Penn. Poor all of them. Warnock. Don't get because Kelly. He's already a radical liberal. Raphael Warnock. This man is being decimated on the Georgia airwaves. They would love that to be added. Okay. So that was our first category, and we did not do well. Okay, we did not do well in the first category, but it's okay because I believe that you will do much better in the second category, which is things you ought to know. Okay, and it's not it's not history. It's more pop culture stuff or the ways that our community have shaped pop culture. Here's the first question up, and it's this: what is the name of the legendary film that helped make the terms reading and shade a part of the American lexicon?
I know.
Yeah, it's his favorite movie. He sits and watches it all the time.
It's
at least once a year.
Of course.
What is it, DJ?
Paris is Burning, of course.
Yes.
DJ is on the board with one. It's absolutely Paris is Burning. DJ and any of our panelists, here's a bonus question. What year was the film released?
Ooh.
1990.
You're right. Give her a second point on the board.
It's 3 points for DJ.
It's how many?
3.
She's running away. So it's 3-0 and 0.008. Now, here's our next question. Somewhat also based on Paris is Burning. You can make an educated guess if you've never seen it, but if you haven't seen it, you need to. What came first? Reading or Shade?
Just
What comes first? Reading or Shade?
I got a 50-50. I'm gonna say Shade.
Ryan says Shade.
The way I do it.
Ryan, we're going to give you a 0.5 for the effort because Shade comes from reading. Yes. Reading came first. Reading is the real art form of insult.
Yes, Dorian.
From Dorian Coy from the film. And she broke this down so eloquently and beautifully in the film. Now, this one is, I know someone's going to get this. I have no doubt about it. What is the first color of the original gay pride flag?
Pink.
At the very top of the flag is what?
Pink.
Pink?
It's the not Gabriel. And it goes to a lighter purple instead of the darker purple that we know now.
In the original flag. Right. Okay. So the first color you're saying is pink, the last color is lighter purple.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we can definitely get that credit. And because I was just saying like red and purple, but
right.
yeah.
You said original. The original flag was Gabriel, whatever, and that was started. The top color was pink.
Well, that's the second bonus question: is who designed this flag?
Gabriel.
That person in the picture right there.
Well, that's true, but
that gets half a point for calling out the obvious.
What's his name? We can go ahead and give close. Are we gonna give out points like close but no cigar? Panel?
Nah.
No.
The first flag it started. You said the original.
You can get that
color. So that's one for that. But the person is Gilbert Baker.
Gilbert. I knew that.
Gilbert Baker. But that's okay. That's okay.
It's called the Gilbert Baker Pride Flag.
The Gilbert Baker Pride Flag. We're getting there. You ought to know, well, we knew some, right? We definitely did better in that category than we did in the history. But let's get to the very final category, which is talking about our icons and our legends. Surely we are going to have 3 questions that everyone will be able to answer. But question number 1, who won the first season of RuPaul's Drag Race? Season number 1's winner.
It's not Alaska, is it?
No, Alaska though does go down to my favorite contestants.
Is Bibi Zahara Benet.
You are correct. We give another point to DJ Rock.
DJ, you over there Googling?
Absolutely.
No, I'm a Drag Race for, even though I hate most of the show's politics and it's rampant transphobia for many years, it's my guilty pleasure. It's my guilty pleasure.
Yeah, I've never watched it for that reason.
I mean, I feel like there's nowhere else I get to see Black trans women on TV. So, we take what we get. We take what we can get. That's where we're at.
I agree. I think it's done it has helped inform a portion of America that would have never been able to experience that in any other form. I watch I can't say I've watched a lot of seasons, but I've watched some. I saw Sharon's season, Alaska season, Evie Oddly season, and I never saw the Bob. I've never saw the people who are on the All Stars now, but I'm watching All Stars now and enjoying it. I'm extremely shocked at how talented Monet Exchange is in every sense of the word, as a performer, but even as a personality. I'm loving the podcast. I'm loving that podcast. So here we have our final question. Zach, what's our scores? Ryan is at 0.5. What we got?
Ryan at 0.5.
Good job, Ryan. You can't win this, but you can get the next question and still get a point on the board.
Ariella at 1.008.
We love it. You also can't win this, but you're going to get another point on the board.
And DJ at 4 points.
DJ has won this game because this is the last question, but hopefully you guys will not let her get the last question. And it's really, here it is. And it has a bonus too. Who was the first president to recognize June as Gay Pride Month?
Was it Biden? Or not Biden, Obama, sorry.
Close, but no cigar.
Clinton?
It was. Bill Clinton was the first president.
That's amazing, considering he also did Don't Ask, Don't
Their
Tell.
Defense Against Marriage, right? Was
DOMA, yeah.
Yes. He was the very first president to actually recognize June as Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. That was the official name that he used, and he signed it in with an executive order and brought in, all of his gay friends at the time that were there. But you are accurate, Ryan, in that the next two presidents that you named were the only other presidents to also officially recognize the month. President Obama as well as President Biden. President Trump actually never chose to recognize the month. And of course, neither did former President Bush. So good job to everyone. Give yourselves a round of applause. And DJ, congratulations on a victory. So with that being said, are there any other questions out there? Any other topics that you guys are really burning to talk about and discuss that we need to talk about before we go into our conclusion?
I think I'm more concerned just about the future generations with the school and classroom, with all these bills that take away the ability for a student to express any vulnerability in an environment where they might not have that at home, or to learn that who they are as a person matters and that they exist and they're part of history. All of these bills coming at a time where it's like everyone is doubling down, or the predominantly conservative side is doubling down on this gung-ho approach of just stupidness. What does that look like for future generations? I mean, more and more, I want to say statistically, it's like doubling every generation, from like the boomers to the next, and from millennials to Gen Z, of like the number of people that are identifying as gay or bi or trans or non-binary. So the next reasonable step is what? Take free speech out of the classroom, which is kind of comical considering that a lot of these laws center around free speech as the argument that they're being put in place for.
I agree 100%. I think that's very valid. Like, that's a fear that I have too, but I give a lot of credit to TikTok, more so than any other media form, right? Like, there's a lot of things I hate about TikTok. I hate the fact that gay news is going to be highlighted, but the work that Ariella is doing is hardly known, right? Like, it's a miracle that she finally popped across my For You page now, when she should have been on my For You page at the very beginning of her work. That pisses me off. And I know that they're looking at Gay Newsman as being someone that they like. He's more marketable in their eyes. He's more of what they want to see on TikTok, that he's what they want to praise. We're not necessarily what they want to highlight. So they're going to limit our views. I did a video yesterday. It was in holding for 30 minutes before it was released to get like 200 looks of the 50,000 little followers that I have. But I believe that TikTok has made it visible to young people that are at any stage in their LGBTQIA plus journey, so that they know they're not alone. And I think that's a huge accomplishment. And even though these laws exist to suppress people, and these laws exist to hold people back, I do not believe that they're ultimately going to win. Yes, there are some young people who are going to be hurt by this, who will be damaged by this. But in the end, the majority of young people are going to win. The reality is that, unfortunately, here's the fact of the matter: 52% of people who are identified as Gen Z are members of the LGBTQIA plus community as of right now. Like right now. Now, there's a whole nother probably 10% of those people who are not able to acknowledge that.
And they also don't even acknowledge people under 18 either when they make those polls and those statistics.
That's correct.
So, and under 18 is even more so than over 18. And then Gen Alpha is, I think, almost, I don't think it's entirely queer, but I think it's mostly queer.
And I think that's a huge part of why you have these bills in place and why it's under assault right now, because the Republican Party had a choice to make. They could have chosen to open their doors and say, we're going to reevaluate our policies and we're going to find a way to affirm people who fall on the spectrum of being LGBTQIA plus community, LGBTQIA plus. Or we're going to find ways to suppress this and persecute them and oppress them. And they chose oppression. But I don't believe that it will ever win. It's a moment in history that I've lived through moments just like this. It happens, but it will not endure. It will make our lives uncomfortable. It will make us unhappy. But ultimately, civilization always moves forward. Always, the arc of the moral universe is always going to be towards justice and love. And we're going to win. But we have to endure the moment and we can't get tired. I think about something that Joy Reid said on her program about those people who were hell-bent and determined to have control over the bodies of women and their reproductive rights. They were determined. And at the moment that Roe v. Wade came through, people celebrated. I wasn't alive, but it was celebrated and it was held as a victory. And people thought we have won. But those rights activists is what I don't want to say they were anti-abortion because that's not what they are. It's something totally different. They worked for 50 years in this country to finally have their day. And they have it. They won it. And people say, well, why didn't Obama codify Roe v. Wade? That was the furthest thing from that man's mind in terms of what needed to be law.
Because that wasn't the most important thing happening at the time. That was the least. There were so many other things. We were trying to get health care. That was where the thing that mattered.
No one thought that Roe v. Wade would ever be overturned. It wasn't even an option until you have 7 fundamentalist conservatives sitting on the Supreme Court.
Who lied to get there.
That would never happen in this country. And it did. Because of what happened in 2016.
Something that makes me, gives me hope, I guess, is right now I'm really into 60s music and 60s culture. And especially the queer culture and stuff like that. And it makes me realize we always persevere. We always survive. Not all of us always survive, but as a community, as a movement, as Pride, we always survive. And no matter what happens, no matter how many rights are taken away, we will still exist and we will still be here and we will still fight. And as long as we don't lose that fight and as long as we don't lose the ability to see hope at the end of the tunnel and see that things can get better, we will eventually get what we need. It won't happen now. It's just not going to happen right now. But if we keep fighting, it's never going to go away. We're never going to completely lose our ability to exist. And that gives me hope because I look back at those amazing Black trans women and I look back at those amazing white gay men even at the time. And I look back at all those people and see, and the non-binary people who didn't even know what it was, and the asexuals who found their word in 1975 or 4, whenever that was. And I look back at all those people and they still existed. They were not respected in the media. And that's the other thing. No matter what happens in politics, the media isn't changing. We have the media. And so our visibility isn't going away. Our ability to see ourselves in certain lights isn't going away. And I think that's something that keeps me alive and keeps my mental health not completely drowning in a pit of sorrow, is that our visibility isn't going away. And even if our rights are going away, they're not going away forever. We can always fight. We can always work. We can always have hope, because you look back then and you see now, and we're going backwards, but we can go forwards again. It's there, it's proven. And that's kind of what I'm holding on to.
And I think so often we've seen that our movement does well when Black trans people are alive. And so the one thing that I would say, especially to listeners and stuff, is every time a bill is struck down and someone's not having access to stuff, there is mutual aid going around. There's a GoFundMe for someone's hormones. There's a GoFundMe for someone to relocate somewhere. If you are in this community and you have privilege, if you are cis, if you're white, if you're able-bodied and able to have a job, donate, give your money, not to nonprofits, not to this like industrial complex, but to Black trans people who are using it to survive. I think the more of us that are alive, the better our movement is. It's always been true. And that's like the one big urge I would have, not only during Pride Month, but especially during Pride Month. If you're going to go to your circuit gay party, maybe get 6 cocktails instead of 7, and that one drink could buy someone hormones for a week. Like that's I think what we really need is to keep Black trans people alive so that we have more fight in this.
I think that was so well stated, DJ. I mean, the sad thing is it's like in 2022, at what point are we done fighting, and should we be done fighting, and can we get to relax? And it's not looking like it's anytime soon. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think this is the time. I know for me personally, I'm gearing up for like even more fight. Like I'm exhausted. Like literally exhausted. I have been fighting for a long time. I have been like organizing in college. Like I've been an advocate for this stuff for a long time. It's always an issue. It's a part, but again, it's a calling. It's who I am. So, you know, you get tired and then you get rejuvenated when I see, you know, content from you guys. And I see like young people who care about this. And you're not just twerking. You're not just out here. Because I hate this because somebody like lit me up on my post today. Somebody was like, you know, I choose to love myself and I choose love. And then you can twerk and party and care. Yes, you can. I'm not anti-twerking. I am just saying that there is more to do in this world than celebrate the joys of an existence that is on the precipice of possibly being taken away, even if for a moment. And I think that's because a lot of young people haven't lived through that moment. They haven't lived through not being able to express your identity at your job. And if you do so, you can lose your job. But there are no protections in most states. So you can lose your job in Georgia without any question. Without any, and there are a number of people who have done that. I believe that the right to marry and the legal privileges that come with it is also going to be under assault very soon. When Roe v. Wade is overturned, it's not just overturning Roe v. Wade, it's overturning any law that gives protected privilege and class to any marginalized group in the United States. And it goes back to say the state you live in has the right to determine what should be protected and what should happen to those groups by the tyranny of the minority, because it's no longer the majority. We are the majority. 70 million more people voted for Joseph R. Biden than who voted for Donald R. Trump. However, with the way these states have gerrymandered and managed to seize power and are now working viciously to maintain that power, you wouldn't know it. But again, I think at the end of the day, we are going to win. We just have to keep fighting, stay patient, and always look towards the future. Thank you guys for joining me. It's been a pleasure. And thank you guys for watching. It's been a joy. We'll see you next week.